Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Double AK podcast. And today I'm going to be giving you a special treat. I'm going to be teaching you a bit about microphone types so that when you start your own shows in your own endeavors, you are in good condition. Okay, so there are many different types of microphones on the market and in the world in existence. A microphone is basically a transducer. By the way, why I'm doing this is that I have an audience that also is interested in content creation themselves. And I thought this would be a nice tidbit for you. You might not need it right now, but just to know it, because I learned all this stuff while I have been working on the podcast for the past 2 years now, and I thought it fair and best to share some of these things with you so that when you are doing your own thing, you don't have to worry about it. You already know it because someone else has gone through the stress and the struggle of looking for it for you. So a microphone is basically a transducer. A transducer is something that changes a signal from one form to the other, which means my voice right now, it's the sum of air pressures and vibrations of my vocal cords, right? And I need a substance that can pick up these patterns, these vibrations, and the pressure changes. It can pick up the patterns, and once it picks up the pattern, what it does is that it translates the pattern into another form. Electromagnetic or whatever form the particular microphone uses, and then sends that down as an electrical signal into the analog to digital converter, which is a fancy word for something that changes a signal into a language that a computer or other digital programs understand. So basically, a microphone picks up my voice, and what it does is that it changes it into a format that it can understand, like binary. Like when you change a number 99 to a binary number, the number changes form, but it still represents the same amount of things. It's just like a CD that transcodes information for pixels on a screen. It's the same way a microphone transcodes vocal, the pitch, the sounds, reproduces the sound from a voice onto a recording device or a computer for later reproduction with a speaker. And by the way, a speaker is just a reverse microphone. So technically, there's some videos of some crazy people who have used a microphone as a speaker and a speaker as a microphone. It's crazy, right? So there are many types of microphones on the market. And if you're going to be looking for a microphone, you have choices. You either get a dynamic microphone, you get a condenser microphone, or you get something else like a ribbon microphone and some other kinds of microphones that I won't talk about them because I don't know them too much because I don't need them. Okay, so let's talk about the dynamic and condenser. What's the difference between the two? Well, simple. Dynamic microphones work on a different pattern than condenser microphones. Are we together up to this point? So dynamic microphones are those mics you find on many stages around the world. They pick up less noise. When I say noise, let me give you an idea of what noise is. Okay, brace yourself for this. I'm going to increase the gain here. And I'm whispering. And I get very far. So, okay, you get the idea of that, right? So what you hear around me is noise. It can be from the audio interface I'm using, the gain switch, or it could simply just be the environment, the room you're in, surrounding you're in. Dynamics pick up less noise, ideally, and they do not require any power, any external power. Condensers, they pick up a wider array of sounds, but they actually require phantom power. That's when the word phantom power comes in. So it's like plus 48 volts, plus 24 volts. When you talk about like lavalier microphones, which are like the ones that you stick on your shirt and they use for like interviews, Those ones, some of them might require like 1.2 volts to power them or something else. So, when I started off my show, I started off with a stereo microphone from the Zoom H1N. I started off with the XY capsule, and later on, I tried to use a lavalier microphone, the Rove Smart Lav Plus, to do some recordings. And now we have upgraded up to the Zoom H8 using the SSH6 hypercardioid capsule, and sometimes using a condenser microphone. So basically what I'm saying is that over time there's been a progression with the quality of the sound you hear compared to the noise in the background, compared to how much noise in the room is picked up. I encourage you to go back and listen to like some of the first episodes, and you can tell there's a difference in the sound. So in other words, microphones do matter, and the quality of your recording gear does matter. But it doesn't matter to the point where you spend $1 million on a microphone setup and then your content is nowhere near that. So I say this: grow with your setup. Don't just buy the biggest and most expensive gear, except you have that cash available. Buy something entry level that you can afford in your budget and grow with the gear, so that when you're getting better and you realize, hey, I've peaked on this particular gear for now, you get something better. And then maybe when you become a pro, you can go back to those old gear that you thought you peaked at and see how much you can push them to the limit again. So that is the whole things about microphone. Condenser microphones are actually used in studio setups a lot. Ronald Reagan, the SM7B, has become the staple for podcasts, and I have actually tried it for my podcast once or twice. I didn't like the way it picked up my voice with the room. If I had a more treated room, it would have been better, but it didn't really work with my voice in an untreated environment. So I just stepped aside from that mic for now. Maybe another day I'll get it and try it again, or maybe I'll try something else like the Electro Voice VE20. If you know this number, is fine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. It's just microphone banter right here. So going back to the whole thing, condensers and dynamic microphones are different kinds of microphones that do the exact same thing. Now, the question that begs is this: what should you get? Well, straight away, it depends on your condition, but I'm going to paint in very broad strokes here because I'm going to make a definitive statement that it might not apply to you, but it's a definitive statement that is going to be made. First of all, you can get the Zoom H1N or like a Tascam recorder. These are small recorders that don't need a computer to do the recording. I actually prefer this setup because my computer is far away. I don't need to stress about it, and then I take it into the computer later on. But again, on the flip side, I actually use the computer and something called an audio interface for different applications, because sometimes my computer is already on, I'm already working, and I'm like, hey, let me record an episode without worrying about like transferring files later on. I just simply plug in my microphone to my computer through the audio interface, and I start recording that very second. It takes a few seconds, and I just export and I upload it to Podbean for the podcast. So it all depends on where you are. But to start off with, I recommend a handy recorder. The Zoom's series or the Tascam series are really good. Right now, I use the Zoom H8 because that one was the one that really appealed to my podcasting needs. I know Tascam has just released their own version of the H8. I think it's the T8. I can't remember exactly what it is. If you know anyone at Tascam who is interested in having a podcaster review the stuff, let me know, because I really want to get into that kind of reviews. But yeah, that's the difference. And for the microphones, what I suggest you get is that if you have a recorder like that, you can either get a dynamic microphone or a condenser microphone. But if your room is not treated, please go with a dynamic microphone. I didn't know this at the beginning. I got a condenser microphone thinking that my voice would be clearer and everything. But little did I know that I was going to introduce myself into a whole world of struggling with room sound and everything. So I had to start treating my room little by little. Like, this room sounded terrible. Let me clap far away so you could hear how much it sounds compared to before. I mean, that's not a comparison, but imagine that with a lot more echo and reverb. That's exactly how the room sounded about a year ago, or less than a year ago. So I've had to do different things like hide in the closet to record, covering myself with a blanket, trying to go into a tiny closet, putting blankets all over the room and hiding in one small corner, putting a blanket over my head. Many things I've tried, and that gets you a good sound. But if you want a straight out the box experience, get a dynamic microphone. Samsung QTU, those are good microphones. The dynamic microphone will do you good for the beginning of your journey. And of course, the Shure SM58, that is a staple microphone. I've tried that once or twice. You can check out my Musical Kinetics channel talking about different microphones. I actually did a comparison test of like 10 different microphones at the same time while playing the saxophone. It was quite interesting. And I also reviewed the BM800. It's like a 10,000 Naira. That's like a $36 condenser microphone, not a dynamic now, but a condenser microphone. It doesn't sound that bad, but I would rather not use it for this podcast because it's not up to par with everything else. So that is the basics of microphones. If I scared you with this talk, it's okay. Don't be scared. Just the basic takeaway from this particular lesson is that there are different kinds of microphone. If you're starting off, you don't have a treated room, get a dynamic microphone. If you're new, get a portable recorder so you don't have to worry about getting a computer that can do all the editing for you. And if you have a computer and you would rather use a computer, you can get a small audio interface. There's so many on the market. I'm not going to talk about them right now because, again, there's so many I would like to try out. I have tried out a few myself and I've used a few mixers myself, but that's a topic I reserve for another day. I thought I should share this tip with you to give you guys a perspective of all this stuff. Because a lot of stuff goes into podcasting and production and everything like this. I hope you like this one. Thank you very much for tuning in and have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.